Hey everybody, and welcome to your third Java tutorial. Today, we're going to be covering conditional statements and loops. So let's get started. Conditional statements uh, are stuff like if you are like when you reach a fork in the road, you can turn left or you can turn right, or maybe maybe there are three different paths, and you can turn left, you can continue straight, or you can turn right. So today we're gonna explore that. So we're gonna, for example, if 5 is less than 7, then we can have it print stuff like we can have it print true. So then when we run it, it checks if 5 is less than 7 and then prints it. However, what if it's not? Then we can do something like this. We can add an else statement, and we can make it say print false. Now, if if 5 is greater than 7, for example. Yeah, don't worry about this error for now. It's just giving us an error because it's absolutely certain when we're working with only integers that this is going to be greater, right? But in variables, it's undecided. So, however, what if you want to test 3 different paths? Then, for example, then you can do something like, then you can make this an else if. So like 5 is less than 7. So pretend these are all crossroads. We can have it print left, right, and then we could have it print straight. So it has this turn right. Or maybe we want to test something like this. This exclamation mark makes it mean not equal to. So now it has this turn right. Or what if we do something like this where none of them are true? Then it has this go straight. So now I have an example of stuff you can use this for. Here I made a grade class. So you can test it out. So when you run it, for a grade of 42%, it gives you an F. But what if you have a 96? It gives you an F. A 72, it gives you a C. Now, I have a challenge for everybody here. When you put 72, it's also true it's true for 2 conditions, yet it only prints one of them. Why is that? Comment with your answer, and whoever gets it right first, I'm going to give them a shout out on my next video. So now, let's move on. Oh yeah, and notice, first of all, that if you look here, for example, I don't have any curly brackets, and it still doesn't give me an error, and it still works, because in an if-else loop, or a for loop, or any of the loops that we're going to talk about, if it only has one line of code it's supposed to do after the if or else if or else's or loops body, then you don't need to put the brackets, you just have to put that one line of code. Alright, now let's move on to our loops. First up is the for loop. The for loop work by first you have to create a number or value, a number variable. Then you have to say that how it's going to be keeping on running until what becomes false, and then it shows him how much the first number is incremented by every time it is run. So in this for loop, for example, we make an integer named I, which we set to 0. Then we make we have to set the I is less than 50, so it's always going to run if I is less than 50. And then we make it that every time it loops through, it increases I by 1. So now when we run this, we get this, a listing of all the numbers from 0 to 50. And it's a lot easier than just printing it out every single number. You can just print it all out with a for loop. Next type of loop is called a while loop. Now a while loop is mainly for working booleans, but you can use it for everything else. For example, int count equals 1, while count is less than 11. First it checks if count is less than 11, and if it is, it prints count is, and then concentrates it, and then it adds 1 to count. But what if you had a boolean, for example? So instead of this, it's boolean b equals true. Then you can test b. So while b is equal to true. Oh yeah, first let's try it out actually by testing the problem. Int I equals int count equals. Let's just test this out really quick. Sorry about that. Let's just if you look, it prints out everything from 0 to 10. But we could also do something. So it can also be used for booleans, like as I mentioned before. So boolean b equals true. Then we can do while b, and then we can do if I is less than 11, or I'm gonna make int I equals 0. Then else, and you can make the else loop make b equal false, and then when you run it, it's giving me an error. There, now it should work. So now it still prints everything from 0 to 10. The while loop may seem like a lot of work, but in certain cases where the amount of times that you need to run it is indefinite, it can change every time. The while loop helps a lot. Now we have the do while loop. So the do while loop may run something, and it tests if it's a true or first it runs it and then it checks if it's true. So it'll always have at least one iteration. While in the while loop, it checks it, then runs, so it can print nothing. So it prints true because b is false, but first it runs and then it checks, and then once it checks, it sees that b is false, so it stops. So what's the difference? Just to demonstrate the difference, I created a while to do class, and I have the same code here, but it's a while loop instead of a do while loop, and it doesn't print anything at all, while the while loop printed true and then stopped. So like usual, let's try and get this video to 25 likes. So if you like this tutorial, please subscribe and comment with any recommendations. And remember the contest. Just a quick refresher. Tell me why, if we set it to maybe 96, why does it give only an A when it fits the categories for A, B, C, and D? So yeah, this is the Java Beast signing out for now.